Hi and welcome to part 2 of our review of the Skye Intelligence Orbit. We previously did a video carrying out an unboxing, looking at the equipment that came with the aircraft, talking about some of the functionality and looking at the app that would allow us to control it. Now after that we plan to come straight outside and do a bit of flying to see how it lives up to the hype, to see how its inbuilt tracking modes work, especially using the separate GPS puck that you can strap to your arm, which was meant to give you more accurate tracking and more responsive tracking than anything else on the market right now. However, we ran into some fairly significant problems. We found the app to be quite buggy. We've had some issues with the aircraft's behaviour, some very poor response. So we'll link here to a post we put on the website explaining what we encountered when we tried to get it airborne. However, in the spirit of fairness, and to try and get at least some decent stuff committed to film this time, we brought the aircraft back on a chilly November afternoon here in Scotland to see if we can actually get it airborne and get it to do some of the things that it should be able to do for us. Okay, here we are. The aircraft has been powered on, it's got a fully charged battery, and it's managed to create its Wi-Fi network for us to link to it. Now we've connected up the iPad, so let's see how well it behaves this time. So if I tap connect here, the first error I get is that it wants to validate its firmware. Now the firmware update process should be relatively simple, but it's proven to be very buggy and very difficult. Lots of hangs in the app, lots of tricky error messages, and very, very slow downloads considering it's no more than 50 megabytes. So let's see if we can convince it that we've done enough with the firmware. And there we go, we've managed to get the app itself to launch, so that's certainly a start. Now we've done a compass calibration already, so we don't need to repeat it at this point here. Now it tells us it's retrieving flight status, so I believe that's it talking to the aircraft to try and find out what it's actually doing right now. You can see up the top we're connected, we've got 10 satellites picked up by the aircraft, so we should, to all intents and purposes, be pretty good to fly. We did have an image there in the background from the camera, but that appears to have disappeared. Oh, as if by magic it comes back. Let's see if we can do anything in the background. No, we can't. We are still retrieving flight status. So this is the sort of thing that we found an awful lot of issues with, really. The aircraft also appears to be reporting that it's 14 feet high, which it obviously isn't. So let's clear out of the app one more time, and we'll see if we can actually get a little bit more contact with the aircraft at least. Okay, 2 minutes of fettling, and 2 full app reboots later, we've managed to connect to the aircraft properly now, so I should actually have a degree of control here. You can see I can slide the camera up and down. We're connected to the aircraft, 11 satellites here, so let's see if we can get it to fly. So down at the bottom, tap takeoff, and it should be simple as sliding to takeoff, just as you'd expect for this sort of aircraft, so let's see what happens. Very little is what happens there, so still gives me a takeoff bar at the bottom, so let's give that another shot. And we appear to have lost the link to the aircraft. Oh, and suddenly it flies. Almost unexpectedly so. So there we are, the aircraft is actually airborne this time. And let's see if we can get it to behave properly. It's staying relatively stable, as you can see. Commanding it to move backwards a little bit, just to give us a bit of range, and you'll see that little wobble from it there as we try to get it to behave. There's a lot of toilet bowling and sort of poor behaviour from the aircraft when it's been airborne. So let's move it a little bit further out of the way so we can get a proper look at it. We've started the aircraft recording as well, so we can have a look at how it behaves and what the image quality actually looks like. I'll try to get it to move to... Right, that was a move to the right when I asked it to move to the left, so, and same again. Very unusual. Moving it away from the tree, just to give us the best chance of getting something decent out of it. You can see I'm holding down backwards here, but it's quite reticent to move, to say the least. There we go. A little bit further, a little bit further. Now I'm going to ask it to move to its left. That should bring it further up the field towards us. And it's gone right instead. Let's try and get it to move backwards again. At least it will broadly climb, so I can keep it clear of that tree. And let's see if we can turn it around so it can at least see us. So there we go. Hopefully you'll be getting the impression here from the video of the app itself that the downlink is pretty jerky. It's not particularly good for framing anything or handling the aircraft. So let's try again. Come to your left, little aircraft. That is not your left. Let's try moving backwards. No, it's now wanting to go forwards again. Let's give it a bit of a climb and see what happens when it's a little bit higher up, just to get it clear of any obstacles. So you'll remember the, some of the original videos that we linked to in the previous review showed pretty normal performance from the aircraft, the sort of flying you'd expect from something akin to a Phantom. But what we're getting here is very, very jerky, and in some senses, well, completely nonsensical. I've no idea why it thinks left and right equates to the same direction for it. So let's give that another shot. Let's ask it to fly towards us. So I'm holding down forwards there. We're getting some wobbles from the aircraft. It's thinking about it. Nope, it's just having a wobble there. It's just setting up and doing a bit of toilet bowling. Let's see if I can make it move to its left. So it should be right of the screen as you're looking at the view of the aircraft. So holding down left there. Standard mode 2 controls. There we go. We're getting a bit of a shudder to the left. And then a little bit of a wobble. But this is not very responsive, as you can see. Now, if I try to adjust any settings here, I should be able to change... Well, first start, I can double check. We are in mode 2. And then I should be able to increase the stick sensitivity here. However, tapping that... Oh, it has worked this time, thank goodness. Maybe that will do... something a little bit better for us. In previous attempts, trying to change the sensitivity or any other settings threw up a warning saying we were in beginner mode and needed to complete 30 minutes of flying before we could change any settings. So has that improved the handling? It's been a little bit more responsive, but look at that. We are getting effectively a little circular flight out of it rather than anything else. Trying to get it to come closer, and it's just not interested. It is responding in altitude at least, and I wonder if there's any chance of us getting it to enter tracking mode. So hitting that up there, draw on screen to select the tracking target. Let's see if it can find us. So there we go. Whoa, and as you can see there, we're getting some crazy responses from it now. Tracking signal less than 6 stars. Failed to enter tracking mode, so it needs the tracking bracelet set up before we can do anything. So let's see if there's a way we can get out of this mode, sort of safely. There we go. And we've lost the link to the aircraft. Hopefully you can still get a view. Oh, we're coming back. Let's take it out of these modes and see what we can do. Well, the answer is not very much. So I'm trying to command it to climb a little bit. Oh, another loss of link there. Disconnected at the top. Here's hoping we can at least retrieve the video from this and we can see what it thinks about how it's flying. Right. Holding full left stick here. Full left stick. And in fact, let's up the sensitivity again if it will let us. Let's see if we can get it to fly away. And you can look at that now. The size of the toilet bowl effect is pretty gigantic. So I think we're going to have to resort to allowing it to come back under its own steam and seeing whether it makes it down or if it hits something beforehand. I'd be very tempted at this point simply to cut the motors and see where it lands, but the aircraft is effectively out of control. You know, we are suffering pretty badly here from... So let's see what happens if I try to tell it to come home. One-click return is selected. And I'm just going to move the gimbal so we can get a better look at what's happening with it. We are not getting any sort of response out of the aircraft at all, so let's see if we can just tell it to land where it is. Totally out of control. Now no response from the app again. Luckily it's coming down a little bit, and finally it has smashed itself into the field across there. I've never been happier to have an aircraft have an accident for me before. What we can see here is the final 90 seconds or so of footage extracted directly from the aircraft itself. We had to open it up and remove one of the inbuilt SD cards in order to access this, then do a little bit of video repair work. We've chopped out the middle section just to give you a little bit of a view as to how unstable the aircraft was and how badly behaved it was in the air. So at this stage, no control inputs are being followed. The aircraft is widening this toilet bowl effect quite markedly. Cutting to the final 30 seconds or so of the flight, and you can see that it's now tracing a much larger orbit. Still very, very jerky and still not responding in any way to any of the inputs made by the app. We were also getting the frequent app disconnections at this point as well. This is around the time where we tried the one-click return to home option, only for it to tell us that the command had timed out. And then on the next lap around, that's when we finally sent the command to land the aircraft. Huge oscillations from it here at this point here. And luckily, this is where we got an impact in a wide open field. Right, here we are, making our way across the field. We're very lucky that it didn't go even further and cause even more issues. You can hear some plaintive, panicked beeping from it. And here she is, not looking particularly happy. A completely disastrous test. There's simply no way that that can be a safe way for an aircraft to operate. Put it out of its misery. So there we go. In terms of an instant damage report, we've cracked a wing here, so we've lost that. That's connected to some of the sensors, and in fact it looks like they've popped out. So we may have a quick look for any parts we can find lying around, and then we'll see what it's like back on the table. So here we are, back from an ignominious test flight, to say the least. So let's have a look at what's happened to the poor aircraft. Props all over the place, as you'd expect from an impact like that, and a bit of cartwheeling, and some pretty nasty damage along the side of the airframe. This wing element is bent completely out of shape. It's on the verge of cracking off at both sides. If we switch the aircraft over, we can see we've lost part of the infrared altitude sensing materials down there. For safety's sake, we're going to have a quick look at the battery. And it at least looks like it's survived the impact with no sort of damage. It's lovely and warm, at least, if nothing else. So we'll put that down. So, pretty catastrophic, I think. And given that the aircraft was fully updated, the app was fully updated, the compass had been calibrated, and it had a solid GPS lock of 10 satellites when we started, it's pretty terrible that a product like this is out there that will behave like that when flown by an experienced pilot and with all the correct settings set up and all the correct software downloaded. So on that note, our review of the Skye Intelligence Orbit is unfortunately finished. I'm very fond of the idea of some of these new, easy-to-use, socially connected drones used for sharing experiences and photographs rapidly, easily, and safely being the key word. Our review of the Unique Breeze showed exactly what can be achieved by aircraft of this type. It was a superb aircraft and we highly recommend it. Now, the Orbit always had the problem that it was only a 1080p camera compared to the Breeze's 4K, and it was coming from an unknown company, effectively. So we didn't know how well this was going to perform. But in some of the snippets we saw of how well the tracking could work, it looked like it certainly had some potential. But unfortunately, fully updated, flight control software completely updated, the app at the latest version, everything checked, everything calibrated, and you saw what that flying was like, and I'm glad this time we managed to get it on video. So that's 2 flights we've had in the last 72 hours or so, one of which ended up with a light impact and a snapped prop due to some toilet bowling, but this one was extremely dangerous. If we weren't in a good, clear, non-congested area, suitably equipped for our flying, then we could have done somebody some serious damage there. So, the Skye Intelligence Orbit, unfortunately not recommended. We still haven't heard back from Skye Intelligence about our findings from our last test flight, so I will send a copy of this review to them and see if they perhaps come back and provide a bit more information. If they're willing to provide us with another aircraft or the ability to access spares or repairs, I'm more than willing to give it another shot. A great idea, but at this stage, a swing and a miss.